points, not just AV and AV plus, but weighted AV, such was the rise of the Oxford Labour Party in the 1980s. I think there's one thing that every leadership candidate and every Labour Party member should agree on, and that is that the House of Commons is a better place and the Labour Party is a stronger institution with Stephen Twigg as an MP. And I really, really say Steve was a fantastic Minister for Schools when we were together in the Department of Education. He did a brilliant job with the Foreign Policy Centre, and I think has won his way to the hearts of his constituents in Liverpool West Derby by the sheer commitment and principle and determination with which he set out to represent them. And it's brilliant to be back in the House of Commons. I just want to start with a report to you of what I've been asked by the media. Because all of the media outlets that I've been talking to, they've asked me one question which has confused them more than any other. And it's not about Iraq, and it's not about policy. They're saying, you just lost an election, but you've got 400 people in this conference in a good mood. What is it about you people? And they have two explanations. One explanation is that the Labour Party loves opposition. And we love nothing more than the prospect of many years of debates about the finer points of progressive politics without the slightest intention of ever putting them into practice. That's one thesis. The other thesis is that actually we're a group of people who are brought together with an absolute passion for the future of our country, an absolute determination to rebuild our party, and a real sense that the decision of the Liberal Democrats to join a Conservative government creates a historic responsibility on us to represent all shades of centre and centre-left opinion, and to do so in a pluralistic, open, transparent and welcoming way. And I think it's that second explanation that does explain the vibrancy and sense of purpose about this meeting. Now, I was thinking about where to start, and we obviously start with the election defeat. But I just want to reflect that one of the things we haven't heard about at all over the last 2 weeks, and it feels like 2 months or 2 years since the general election. But we haven't looked much at the shifts from 1997 to 2010. There's been quite a lot of discussion about what we lost between 2005 and 2010. And that's important. But I think any examination of why we lost that starts in 2005 will neglect some important parts of the story. Because the truth is that in 1997 we won 43% of the vote, and this time we got 29% of the vote. In 1997 we had 440 MPs, now we're down to 260 MPs. So we've lost badly in many sections of the community that propelled us into power. And this came home to me in Worcester 10 days ago. We won in Worcester in 1997, we won well in Worcester. Mike Foster was a fantastic MP, but he lost by 3,000 or 4,000 votes. And that is the scale of the change from a majority that he had of 8 or 910,000 in 1997 to being badly beaten. But I think that one reason there is a sense of purpose and even optimism about this meeting is something else that we've lost in the last 13 years. And I think it's really, really important. We've lost the tag, the reputation for being the most unsuccessful progressive political party in Western Europe. It's really important, this. After 1992, the Nuffield election study said, must Labour lose? The assumption was that we couldn't win a general election. And what's happened over the last 13 years since 1997 is that we've gone from being an unsuccessful, out of touch, unelectable in some ways, political party that we were in the 1980s, to being a political party that expects to have the ideas and the people and the organisation to be in government. And I think that is a historic shift for the Labour Party. David Lammy often says to me, 22 years out of 100 in the 20th century, we were in government. That means, if we repeat that performance, we've only got 12 more years in this century. Now that puts into perspective the sort of historical albatross that we're carrying, and the sort of historical record that we have to break. And I think it's important to think about these things with that sense of history. Now, this election, this leadership election, is going to be about leadership. It's going to be about who can fire the imagination. It's going to be about who can unite different talents It's going to be about who can be a credible Prime Minister. It's going to be also about who can lead a victory in the battle of ideas. But I don't want to dwell on the first three of those today. I want to talk about the battle of ideas and how we engage in the battle of ideas and begin to win it. Not within our party, but against our opponents, Conservatives and Liberals. And really I want to talk about three things. I want to talk about, first, whether or not we really get it about the changes that are going on in modern Britain and whether we're able to understand them, explain them, and then do something about them. Because I think that's a real question that the electorate are asking us. I want to talk, secondly, about the authenticity of our political programme and our political offer. Because I think it's really important that so many people said to me, look, Gordon Brown really found his voice in the last week of the campaign. And he found his voice as an authentic campaigner for fairness. And we have to be able to conjure and develop and nurture that sense of authenticity, because otherwise people can tell there's something missing. And the third thing I want to talk about is the sort of political movement that we have to build in order to be in touch and to be authentic. Let me just start with this notion that how do we show the British people that we get it, that we are in touch. I feel one of the most damaging things for us in the election campaign was this sense that we'd gone from being a party of the future, a party that understood the future, that was riding pressed to the wave of the future, to being a party that felt out of time. And I think there are some profound underlying issues that we have to get to grips with. One is what sort of political economy we believe in. The hardest question I was asked on the doorstep was by people who are laid off in their 40s or 50s, am I going to work again? And what's going to happen in this town for people who are now in their 20s? Those questions about the wealth creating base, what sort of economic programme helps to nurture it, post the economic crisis, that is a defining issue. Because if growth is not the issue in economics, then deficit cuts will be the issue. And we'll be stuck in a very, very dangerous spiral. The Japanese and others have had this dangerous spiral. If you don't get growth, you're always chasing your tail when it comes to deficit reduction. So we have to be very clear about the need to rebalance our economy, not just rebalance it between finance and the rest of the economy, but also between different parts of the economy, different regions of the economy. And I think we've got to do that with some humility, but also with some sense of purpose, because there are real examples of what it means to have a modern engagement with the wealth creating base of the future and how we make the most of it. In my part of the world, in the Northeast, the fact that the Northeast is now home for building the electric car for the whole of Europe, that is modern industrial policy, and perhaps we were timid for too long, that people felt that we would be tarred with the brush of creating another British label, and in fact we need government on the side if it's build the industries of the future. So we've got to get it on political economy in a very profound way. We've got to get it on welfare. That we do have a welfare state to meet need, but we also have to have a welfare state to reward contribution and a welfare state to engage with conditionality. Those are fundamental things if you believe that rights and responsibilities are the heart of any effective community. And that unless we have proper responsibilities, we're not going to make it go. Now, one of the most galling things